You think having $1 million budget means you could buy whatever you want in Manhattan. It doesn't. It means you're about to find out how this market actually works. And most agents won't tell you what I'm about to tell you. I talk to buyers every week who have done their homework. They've been on Street Easy for months. They know the neighborhoods. They know what they want. And they think the hard part is finding the apartment. Here's the thing. Finding it is the easy part. The hard part is surviving what comes after you find it. The legal process, the financial audit, the board, the timeline, the taxes you didn't budget for. I've been doing this in New York for 18 years, born and bred here, and I can tell you, this market is unlike anything else in the country. Not a little different, fundamentally different. So let's piece the puzzle together. No surprises, just the real picture so you can get to the finish line. First thing you need to understand about Manhattan, about 70 to 75% of the residential buildings here are co-op, not condos. Here's what that means. When you buy a condo, you own the four walls. It's real property. You get a deed. It's the closest thing to a normal real estate transaction you'll find in this city. Co-op is different. You're not buying an apartment. You're buying shares in a private corporation that owns the building. And those shares give you the right to live in a specific unit. So yes, you're buying into a corporation run by your neighbors. Think of it like joining a country club that happens to own your apartment. They get to look through your entire financial life before they let you in. And they can say no for almost any reason. The condo, easier to get into, but you're going to pay for that freedom. And the closing cost is significantly higher. The median Manhattan condo right now is somewhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million. So right away, your budget determines which world you're playing in, and that shapes everything else. Now, let's talk about what the board actually wants from you, because this is where most buyers get blindsided. And I want to address this before we even talk about timelines, because this is information you need before you start looking, not after. Every co-op is different, but there are common requirements across most buildings. Most co-ops want a minimum of 20 to 25% down. The more selective buildings, particularly along Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue, want 50% down or all cash. They set their own rules, and those rules are not always published anywhere publicly. They look at your debt to income ratio, stricter than your bank. They want to know your monthly obligations are a manageable percentage of your income, and their threshold is typically tighter than what your mortgage lender would approve. And post-closing liquidity, this is the one that catches most people off guard. After you pay your down payment and your closing costs, the board wants to know how much cash you still have left sitting in liquid accounts, not your 401k, not crypto, liquid. Most Manhattan co-op boards require you to have at least 24 months of your combined monthly carrying costs, your mortgage payment plus your maintenance fees sitting untouched after closing. This is a real number that catches even high earners by surprise. Your 401k, most boards discount it significantly or don't count it at all. So the board's math and the bank's math are two very different conversations. A buyer can be fully approved by a lender and still not qualify for a specific co-op building. And if you have a dog, this is something we address before we ever go out looking. The breed, the weight, sometimes a photo. Some buildings have restrictions on breeds and sizes that are not listed anywhere publicly. This is not something you want to discover after you've fallen in love with an apartment. Now, let's talk about time, because this is where most people get completely caught off guard. In most states, a real estate transaction takes 30 to 45 days, maybe 60 if something gets complicated. In Manhattan, condo deal takes 60 to 90. A co-op deal, you're looking at 90 to 120 days, approximately. Minimum, I've seen them stretch past that because boards are more cautious than ever. So let's peel the onion for a second on why it takes so long. With a co-op, after you go into contract, you have to build what's called a board package. Think of it as the most invasive financial process you've ever assembled in your life. We're talking 2 to 3 years of tax returns, bank statements, brokerage statements, reference letters from your employer, your former landlord, and personal references. A financial statement that has to balance to the penny. They're looking at your financial picture in detail, every line, and I mean that literally. Some buildings would want to know also about your pet, the breed, the weight, whether that weight falls within what the building permits. I've seen perfectly qualified buyers get tripped up over details that had nothing to do with their finances. The board package is not a mortgage application. It is a full lifestyle audit conducted by people who are about to become your neighbors. That package gets submitted to the building's managing agent, who reviews every single line. If one document is missing, it gets sent back. That alone can cost you weeks. Then it goes to the volunteer board of directors. They meet once a month. You could wait for them to review it. If they like what they see, they invite you to an interview. Then you want to schedule the interview around their calendar. Now let's talk about that interview, because people underestimate it. This is not a dinner party. You answer the questions they ask directly and politely, and you do not volunteer extra information. You do not make jokes about renovating the kitchen. You do not mention that you travel internationally 6 months a year. The building requires primary residency. You do not push back on building rules, even if you disagree with them. The board is not looking for reasons to say yes. They are looking for reasons to say no. Their entire job is to protect the building. So your entire job in that room is to give them nothing to work with. Be calm, be prepared, be boring if you have to. Save the personality for after you get the keys. There's a new law taking effect in 2026 that puts mandatory deadlines on boards. 45 days to approve or deny once your application is complete. That's a step forward for buyers. But here's the flip side. Boards under a time clock may be quicker to reject borderline applications rather than ask questions. So this law cuts both ways. The takeaway: start the process earlier than you think you need to, and have your documents ready before you go into contract. New York is what's called an attorney state. So that means, by law, a real estate agent cannot draft, modify, or legally interpret a contract of sale. Only a licensed real estate attorney can do that. In most of the country, you buy a house without a lawyer. Not here. Your attorney in Manhattan is doing real work on your behalf before you sign anything. They review the financials of the building, they read the board minutes, they look at any neighbor complaints on record, and that due diligence has saved buyers from situations the seller had absolutely no intention of disclosing. I had a buyer, qualified, ready, excited about the apartment. The attorney read through the board minutes and found repeated discussions about the building's elevator system going back almost 2 years. Deferred. The building was quietly looking at a major capital repair that was going to be assessed directly to the shareholders. The seller knew. It was never disclosed. My buyer walked away clean because the attorney did their job. This is what a real estate attorney in New York actually does. They are not there to shuffle papers. They're there to protect you from what you can't see. The deposit is always 10% of the purchase price. It's held by the attorney and paid at contract signing. That is standard across every deal in this city. Let's talk briefly about what actually hits you at the closing table. You have things like the mansion tax paid by the buyer, which kicks in at $1 million and increases progressively as the price goes up, and the mortgage recording tax on financed condos. The difference between a co-op and a condo closing cost structure is significant enough that I'm dedicating the next video entirely to breaking it down. So make sure you catch that one. But for now, your budget has to account for the closing table, not just the down payment. The people who come to me prepared, who understand the timeline, who've already looked at their liquidity picture, who know the difference between what a bank will lend them and what a board will approve, those deals move. They close cleanly, no surprises. The people who come in thinking this works like buying a house in New Jersey, those are the deals that fall apart at week 10, after the attorney fees, after the emotional investment. I don't want that for you. That's why I'm telling you this now. Manhattan real estate is not complicated because the city is disorganized. It's complicated because it was designed structurally, legally, financially to be protective of the buildings, of the existing shareholders, of the asset values. Your job as a buyer is to enter that system looking like the ideal candidate. Clean financials, adequate liquidity, not just what the bank needs, but what the board needs. An attorney who actually knows this market and a timeline that accounts for reality, not optimism. That's a strategy, not just browsing, not just having a down payment. I'm Heather Cooper. I've been closing deals in the city for 18 years. If you're serious about buying in Manhattan and you want strategy, not just a tour guide, let's talk. Comment the word ready down below and I'll send you my complete co-op versus condo buyer checklist. Every document you need, every financial threshold to know before you make a single offer. No surprises. That's the deal.